I just want to say how wonderful it is to represent this community. Without the accomplishments of what everyone has done in this room, we wouldn't have stories to tell. So a round of applause for everybody here. Thank you. So when people find out that I'm an actor, they usually have two questions for me. The first one is, how do you learn all those lines? And then the second question is, how do you get jobs? Now, the first question is not that interesting. I literally sit down and I put the lines in my head. But the second question is what I'm here to talk to you about today. How do we turn doubt into power? So I imagine that most of us in this room have been to a job interview. You know, you do the same things. You prepare, you have nerves, you put your best foot forward, and then you're done. And if you're like me and you're not a psychopath, you think about it. What did I do? Did they like me? Did they not like me? How could I have done better? And then you get the job, or you don't get the job, or you get another job. And that's it. And you don't do that hopefully for another year, 2 years, 10 years. Now imagine if you did that once a week. That's the life of an actor. That's how we get jobs. We audition. So I'll give you an example of how this process works. So I'm sitting there on my laptop. I'm scrolling through Amazon or social media and I get an email that says, hey, you have an audition. And so I read the description. And this is actually pulled from an audition I had last week. She's a stylish, quick-witted thrill seeker who expects others to keep her pace. She's ambitious, she's energetic, she lights up any room, she has a sharp sense of humor, and she can banter with the best. And she always kicks ass. And immediately two things happen. I think, yeah, check. I can do that. I'm all of those things. But then there's also that other part, the doubtful part, that thinks you think you're all of those things, and you're going to try to convince a room filled of people to give you that job. And the thing is, when it comes to acting, when it comes to auditioning, I can't be taller, I can't be shorter, I can't be anything but what I am. And out of the projects that I've been lucky enough to work on, there are hundreds at this point, literally hundreds of projects that I've auditioned for that I haven't gotten. So as a woman, as a South Asian woman, how do I keep my power when I'm constantly subjected to these scenarios over which I have no control? I remember when I first started acting, and I was obsessed with it. I went to all the acting classes, I watched all the movies, I read all the books, and I remember being in this acting class, and in front of everybody, the acting teacher said to me, he said, I can see how much you want this. And he didn't mean it in a good way, and I was mortified. And what I mean by that is, have you guys ever been on a date with somebody who really, really, really likes you? And it's like cringe. So what I think that he was seeing, and the thing that I was so embarrassed by at that point when I had just started my career, was a young woman who was abdicating her own self-worth for something that she perceived to be bigger than she was. Now, I'm going to tell this story that I don't tell that often because I'm so embarrassed by it, but I think it's useful for our collective growth. So when I first started acting, I had this agent who asked me to change my name. Supinder Wraich. At that time, I went by Supinder Kaur. And the reason for it was there weren't a lot of parts for South Asian women, and he thought that I would be more versatile. And the most embarrassing part is what I changed my name to. So at that point, I went by Supinder Kaur, and I was born in the month of September. And the most creative thing I could come up with was I changed my name to September Kaur. And the first part I booked was Brown Girl number 2. And I got so lucky because the director was a Punjabi guy, and he came up to me and he said, I'm not going to work with you until you tell me your fucking real name. And that's when I learned that lesson, that I had to live with myself, that my dream wasn't bigger than I was. My dream wasn't more important than me. And so over the years, that's a lesson that I've learned. And this battle between doubt and to keep my power is what I've been struggling with my entire career. But what I've learned is to be less concerned about what they want and to think the way that I'm sure many of you as business people do think in this room, which is, what do I have that they need? And so when I auditioned for Sabrina Soho on Allegiance, the character description, and I went back and looked it up, it read like this. The character is 24, 25. I wasn't. She's tough as nails, mentally and physically. The role is very physical. A champion biathlete who could have gone to the Olympics if she wanted, excelling especially at rifle shooting. And at that point when I auditioned, my son was 6 months and I could barely run without peeing myself. So for all the women in the room and the mothers, you know what I'm talking about. And so there was a lot of things that weren't me, but I knew that I had her heart. I knew that I had her care for her family and her commitment to her community. And that's what I brought to the role. And if you haven't already, you can watch Allegiance Season 1 and Season 2 streaming on CBC and CBC Gem. And thank you so much for your time.